What is up, guys? You're back with Corey. Welcome back to the channel. I am on day 10 officially without Kratom extract. Still taking about 10 grams of Kratom powder per day. The sleep is definitely starting to level out at this point. I only woke up one time last night. I spoke about in my video yesterday, one change that I was going to make was to cut back a little bit on my water intake, at least later in the day, so that I could have all of that out of my system and not have to, you know, because when you're going through something like an opiate withdrawal and you're already somewhat sleep deprived and stuff like that, the last thing you want to have to do is get up 6 times in one night to urinate. And that's what was going on with me. So I actually stopped drinking any water at around 12 noon yesterday, and I didn't have a whole lot of liquids 12 noon on. So last night I was able to actually sleep a lot better throughout the night. I was able to sleep a good probably 3.5 hours on the first stretch of the night before waking up, which is an improvement, might I add. Man, when I first was coming off of the extracts, the withdrawals were such to where I was only sleeping, you know, maybe an hour and a half at a time, and then I was waking up, just constantly waking up throughout the night. And that's one thing about those extracts, man. The kratom, kratom alkaloid level in it is so high, so freaking high, man. It literally knocks you out. I mean, you pass out. And when I was taking that stuff, especially when I was taking 1.5, 2 of those a day, man, I would fall out at night and I would barely move until that alarm went off in the next morning. And so it's, you know, I'm on day 10 now, and for this whole 10 days since I've just been back on the Kratom powder and I've been kind of cutting down on that amount as well, my sleep has not been normal at all. And, you know, that's just kind of the way it goes, I guess, you know, coming off of something stronger like that. When you know, cut back on that drug significantly, you're gonna have some days where sleep is not that great. You know, I find myself talking about sleep a lot. There are some other elements to it. Man, I mean, I had a period of, you know, about maybe an hour or two this morning where I was just like, damn, depressed as hell, man, you know, not feeling good about anything. And you know, that it's weird because that's one of those things where in the beginning it's kind of gonna do this, and you have to really learn to be patient with yourself in those sort of scenarios, because I didn't really have, you know, a lot of reason to be depressed or upset. There wasn't anything specifically going wrong. I mean, everything's going about as well as it could go at this current moment in my life, other than these, you know, changes that I'm going through. My wife and I are both starting new positions, her completely a new job that she's training for, and I'm working with the same company that I've been with for almost a year, but they promoted me into a new position, which is good, but, you know, it's always hard and a little bit challenging to learn something new, you know, as opposed to doing a job that you've gotten accustomed to and you're really good at, or you're really accomplished at. So that's been somewhat of a challenge, especially, you know, mixing the new position with coming off of the extracts, not sleeping that well, my energy level, you know, kind of being a little bit like a roller coaster. You know, I've been dealing with some of that, but overall pretty good. But you know, man, I don't know if this is something that I talked a little bit yesterday about addict mentality, and just, you know, some of the ways that addicts tend to look at things in life, and just being impatient, and, you know, kind of the grass is always greener on the other side sort of theology in your life. And, you know, I had a little bit of that this morning. I was a little bit frustrated with my job because I didn't ask to be put into this new position. They kind of just delegated me to do it because our well, I don't want to go into specifically, for fear of, someone from my current job actually seeing this video, which is rare. That it's not a high probability that would happen. But with that said, I was a little frustrated with my job, whatever, and I find myself there, for a couple of minutes, just scrolling through Indeed, the the job search platform. Not really a great reason for that. I think more than anything, I'm just, kind of, being poopy pants. Really, it's just kind of a tough day, and that's the way it is when you're making a change like this, and you're coming off of something like an opiate. Your mood a lot of times really suffers when you're making these sort of changes, and that's something that kind of found myself dealing with there. But anyway, I'm not gonna focus too much on that. I'm gonna get to a little bit about my sleep last night. Some touching on some points of withdrawal, especially at night, because for me, withdrawals always seem to manifest at their worst at night when you try to sleep. And if you're a person out there watching this video and you've been through some sort of opiate or any kind of opiate withdrawal, I imagine you'll probably agree with me that the nights are the worst. The nights are the worst. I'm not saying the daytimes don't carry their own challenges with, low energy, and if your bowels might be messed up from, coming off of something, especially if it's something heavy, if you were taking a heavy dose of it. For me right now, it's mostly the night times that have been a specific challenge for me. So I realized after recording my video yesterday, I listened to it back yesterday afternoon while I was on a jog. Exercise, really important. Just wanted to take that opportunity to throw that in there. While I was jogging yesterday afternoon, I had my earbuds in and I was listening to the video that I made yesterday, and I realized that I went to make a point about chamomile tea because my wife had gotten up in the middle of the night and made me a chamomile tea the night before last. And I went to talk about it, and then I kind of diverted and went on to a soapbox about, melatonin and just these other things. And then I never even continued or finished what I was going to say about chamomile tea. And I blame my mom for that. My mom's one of those people that she'll get to telling you a story and then she'll backtrack and she'll start setting up the story. She'll tell you what the story's about first, and then she'll go and start backtracking and digressing and regressing to then telling you the setup for the story and who was involved in it and what you were doing when the story began to unfold and all this. And I'm really bad about that, and if you're noticing that, I apologize. I will try my best to get to the point. Chamomile tea. Chamomile tea is good for folks who are not necessarily having any withdrawals and you just want to promote relaxation and kind of help you drift off to sleep. I'm now on my 10th day, 9th night, 10th day without any extract at all. So at this point, the withdrawals are starting to decline or starting to cease a little bit. And I'm not really experiencing a whole lot in terms of physical withdrawals at night at this point because I have been off of the extracts for 10 days now. So the chamomile tea actually worked somewhat for me. And I will say, if you're a person who's tapering and maybe you're just having like some slight general discomfort because you haven't come off of the medication, whether it's Kratom or something else, you haven't come off of it altogether, but you're tapering down off of it. And when you taper, your withdrawals might not be as bad, but when the first couple of days after taking, a dose of Kratom and cutting back on your dose, it's perfectly normal to feel just a little bit antsy, a little bit anxious. I was like that last night. My wife wanted to spoon up behind me and cuddle up behind me, and I was just like, get off of me. I wasn't necessarily withdrawing, but I've cut down from 12 grams of Kratom to about 10 within the last 3 or 4 days. So I'm still kind of like in that mode where I'm not 100% comfortable in my own skin yet, and I'm not resting quite as soundly as I normally would. And it's just some general discomfort there. So I didn't want to be held down. I get a little claustrophobic during times like that when I'm having like slight withdrawals or discomfort or whatever. So I just didn't want her on top of me. So I was kind of like, no, I'm sorry, it's not a good night, whatever. And but I will say that because I'm starting to come out of the withdrawals, the withdrawals are slight, the chamomile tea actually worked. And the next thing that I mentioned yesterday was the melatonin. And I talked about if you're in full-on withdrawals from some sort of opiate and you've gone and quit cold turkey or whatever, depending on what your tolerance was and how bad your withdrawals were, for me, melatonin was not helpful. Melatonin is not helpful if you are looking to stave off severe opiate withdrawals. I'm sorry. And, it's one of those things where years back when I actually went to a recovery center, the therapist there, that's one of the first things he told me about. Melatonin really helps. And, I was like, cool, something helps. Great. I went and bought some melatonin. Didn't help. Not one bit. And I spoke on this yesterday. I became more irritated than anything because the melatonin, much like Benadryl or something like that, it makes you like just drowsy and sleepy. But if you're in full-on withdrawal mode, the withdrawals are going to serve to keep you awake. So it's almost just annoying and irritating to have something that's actually making you sleepy and making your head foggy and groggy, but then on the flip side of the coin, you cannot fall off to sleep because the withdrawal symptoms are keeping you asleep. I liken it to, let's say you haven't slept in 3 days and you're exhausted and you finally fall off to sleep, and then you've got someone standing there beside you, and every time you finally doze off to sleep, they shake you like that. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Leave you alone for about 2 or 3 minutes. You finally drift off to sleep again, and they shake you. Wake up, wake up. That's what taking melatonin when you're in full-on withdrawals feels like to me. And leave a comment about that. So maybe some folks have had better experiences with that than I have. But melatonin, chamomile tea, there are some things out there that do promote sleep. If you're tapering and your withdrawals are somewhat slight, there are some things that can kind of help you go ahead and doze off to sleep and stay asleep for a couple of hours. And such as chamomile tea, melatonin, things like that. If you're quitting cold turkey, unfortunately, there's just not, and I've talked about this before, there's just not a magic pill for it. There's just not. And it just kind of is what it is. But again, reiterate, exercise helps. Drink lots of fluids. Definitely take a vitamin. Magnesium powder. I've heard magnesium powder is great for calming like the restless legs and things like that you might be experiencing with withdrawals. I personally have not taken, I've been taking a multivitamin, which I'm pretty sure has a certain amount of magnesium in them, but I've not taken like magnesium powder per se, which is what I've heard is really good and really helps. But I have some on the way. In fact, it's probably at my house right now. I'm on lunch break, so I can't go back, but that's something that hopefully I'll take some of that tonight, and maybe we'll have a report for you guys tomorrow on whether that really helped or whether it did not help me at all. But anyway, I've been saying that I was going to tell some stories about my previous drug use and drug experience and just being a drug addict in general. I shared one yesterday that it's pretty embarrassing to tell. I'm going to tell another embarrassing one today. And I don't know why I'm doing this. Maybe it's because it's therapeutic for me, and it's one of those things that I've never really told anyone. And, as you know, as a human, it's not good to just ball things up inside you. So a lot of it is just journalistic for me. It's just, you know, a diary of things that I've done. And as of right now, the time that I'm making this video, I actually have not even made these public. I don't even know if I'm gonna make them public. This might just be something that it feels good to me to just get it out and to speak the words about what I've done. But I also, if I continue with my recovery here, I'm, you know, at some point I'm gonna hit public on all these videos, and you guys are just gonna get inundated with a bunch of Corey Austin drug diary videos. All right, so the one I'm gonna tell today, this is back when I was actually teaching young children, pre-K children, because my degree is in birth through kindergarten. And I was teaching at this like education center, and there, you know, I was at this time definitely within active addiction. This is before I'd actually gone to the doctor and gotten like a regular supply of medication. And so at this point, I had kind of become addicted, but I was getting them either on the street, like I said before. Both of my parents, and I just want to say, when I talk about my parents don't abuse narcotics. My parents, neither one of them, have never abused narcotics. They both have prescriptions for narcotics for various, you know, ailments, and for my mom, you know, chronic pain that she has, and they both have prescriptions for narcotics. But my dad, specifically, he doesn't even like to take them. It's one of those things where he'll get these tension headaches a lot of times related to glaucoma that he has. My dad's almost 80 years old, but he's the type of person that he won't take the Percocet that he gets. He won't take it unless he has to. There's times where he'll have a headache and he just won't take it because he doesn't like taking something like that on a regular basis, because I guess he knows it's not, you know, not good for you, and it can be addictive. And my mom, you know, she takes them on a regular basis, but she takes them like she's supposed to. So when you hear me talk about taking and stealing medications from my parents, you know, I didn't learn my drug abusing ways from my parents. It just so happens it was kind of a trigger because, you know, in my early 20s I was living with them still, and my parents were getting opioid sort of medications, and it was during that time that I had actually tried them and was like, oh, I love these are awesome, you know. And I definitely got addicted by virtue of just, you know, taking a few pills here, taking a few pills there out of my parents' bottles. And that's kind of how I became addicted. But so at this time I was teaching, I was in my 20s, and there was this lady there who was in the toddler classroom down the hall, and I don't remember how it came about, but we were talking about, you know how you talk to your employees or whatever, and we started talking about weed or something, smoking weed and this and that and the other. And somehow it gets mentioned, you know, when you're an addict, you find a way to bring up, you know, narcotics. You know, if you, oh, my shoulder hurts. Man, I was at the gym the other day. I'm telling you, I feel like I need to go to the doctor. You know, I feel like I tore my shoulder out or something. Like, I'm needing something. I've been taking a leave, like candies. Nothing's working, man. I need something like ASAP. And, you know, most well-intending, you know, people who actually care about other people, and if they have no idea that you're actually a in-the-closet drug addict, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh, you know, I got this prescription of Vicodin, or I got this, you know, whatever at home, and you want me to bring you some? Yeah, would you? Man, that will be awesome. I mean, this is rough. I don't know, you know, that sort of thing. And I say this because this has been, at this point, probably 18 to 20 years ago. So my memory of it is, and not to mention, my life was kind of fuzzy during that time because I was in active drug addiction. But so I don't remember exactly what it was that I said to her that got the conversation brought up, but I'm sure it was something similar to what I just mentioned. And and of course she says something about, oh, I got this prescription for it. She had gotten some sort of prescription for Vicodin that she had not even taken to the pharmacy and gotten it filled yet. And it was just recent. But, it was one of those things where they gave her, I don't know, it was something, I don't know what it was. Something maybe like her period or something like that, where she had gotten this prescription like several weeks earlier, and then she just never even got it filled. Because a person who's not addicted to something like that, you go to the doctor with some sort of ailment, and they say, well, here, just take a regular regimen of ibuprofen. Here's some 800 milligram ibuprofens, and here's an antibiotic to, clear up any infection you might have, and here's some script of Vicodin just in case the pain gets really bad, and you got somebody who's not an opiate addict, and they actually are on some sort of budget. They'll just be like, oh, I'll just get the ibuprofen and the antibiotic, and just, I just won't get the Vicodin. To them, like, the script of Vicodin is not like winning the lottery like it is to an opiate addict. If you're an opiate addict and a doctor writes you a prescription for Vicodin, you walk out of the office, you're like, yes. You'll go to the pharmacy and, like, you don't even care about forget the antibiotic, man. I don't even need that ibuprofen. Just give me the freaking Vicodin. Hurry up, So, but this girl had this prescription that she just hadn't gotten filled. And I knew from my previous history that you could take someone else's prescription to the pharmacy, get it filled, and then come back and pick it up yourself by showing a license, which I just want to say I think is an asinine loophole. They may have closed this loophole. I haven't dealt with this in years and years and years and years. But during active addiction, I had gone and picked up my parents' prescriptions for them a couple of times, things like that. And so I knew that if I could talk her into it, she would let me take that prescription, go get it filled, be the one to go pick it up, and then come back. And I also knew that there were some over-the-counter medications out there that looked very similar to Vicodin. And I could also tell by the way that this lady was talking to me that she didn't know shit about Vicodin. I mean, this woman may have never taken up Vicodin in her whole life. To her, there's nothing special about a Vicodin. And so I had this idea that, because I had told her I was in some sort of pain or something, I acted like I really needed it. And on my lunch break that day, I was going to go and I was going to run up to the pharmacy, and she had given me permission. She thought I really needed this medication. And I told her that, I would go pick it up, and I would even, pay her a little bit towards the prescription if she would let me get like maybe 10 of the pills or whatever. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. And again, this woman, I don't remember her name. I don't remember any of that. I didn't know her that well, and I've not talked to this lady in 20 years. She was a well-intended, nice person. She didn't know that she was giving an active drug addict drugs. She didn't know that. So I got to wrap this up. Going on 25 minutes here. But anyway, left on lunch that day. I actually looked up online certain generic like painkiller pills that were oval white pills that looked very similar in size and in shape to the Vicodin. Knew this lady didn't know what the hell Vicodin was or looked like, so I went, picked up her prescription, showed her my ID, got her prescription, walked into the store, bought this random pain, over-the-counter painkillers that I had, went to the car, dumped out all of her like 20 Vicodin or whatever it was, I don't remember, 20 Vicodin, whatever it was, put her Vicodin in another pill bottle that I had. So I took all of her Vicodin, then I took the over-the-counter pills that looked like Vicodin, put 20 of them in her Vicodin bottle, put it back in the bag, then grabbed a stapler that I had brought with me from the school to the pharmacy, stapled the bag back to make it look like nobody had tampered with it and that I had just picked it up from the pharmacy, went back to the school, handed it to her, and this poor lady, she took out the pills that were not Vicodin. None of them were Vicodin because I had every one of her Vicodin already. She took out the pills, unscrewed the top, counted out 10 of the generic pills that I had just put into the bottle myself that were not Vicodin, handed them back to me as my payment for going to, giving her the $10 and then going to get the prescription for her. Handed me back 10 of the pills that I just put in there, closed it back. And so then I had all 20 of her Vicodin, and then I had 10, and plus whatever, how many was left of the over-the-counter prescription that I had bought. I'm only laughing about this now because this has been 20 years ago, and it's just asinine. The things, walking down memory lane, thinking about the things that I had done, it's crazy to think about. But if you're ashamed and embarrassed about some of the things you've done as an opiate addict, then maybe that'll help you. Damn. Not having done something like that in 15, 20 years is, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. And it's kind of dehumanizing and demoralizing as well. It makes you feel like a weak human being. Like, wow, I really did that. I did. Talking about being deceitful. Talking about not being able to tell the truth, man. But, that's part of the addiction, and I'm thankful that I don't have to deal with that anymore. And that's one thing that I can say, that having a good wife, a good life where we both make good money, where she knows all of my dirty little secrets, and the fact that Kratom is actually legal, so I'm able to just go and buy it at will whenever I want to. I am thankful for that, because that's at least caused me to have to be, at least I'm being honest. At least I'm being honest with my family, and at least I'm not cheating people out of things. The only person I'm cheating now basically is myself, and probably my wife, from spending some of our money on the Kratom and stuff like that. But that is one thing I'm thankful for, that Kratom did for me, was allowed me to kind of remain out of that active addiction with more serious opiates. But Kratom could be serious too, depending on, how you take it and what your habits are. So just remember that. But anyway, guys, leave a comment. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm divulging all these dirty secrets here. At least the least that you can do is just hit that subscribe button. So leave a comment. Love reading the comments. It's therapeutic for me. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.